Welcome back to another episode of DevTalks, where we talk about everything engineering and technology. It's Travian, and we're back with another episode, another solo one. Last episode was having guests on. I'm planning on having a lot more guests on, a lot more people, and I'm trying new things and just always want to see where we can go and take this. So thank you for everybody who continues to support. I very well appreciate it so much. Like, you guys don't understand how much, but and I love doing this because I love talking about technology and engineering and everything that goes about it. But this episode, I'm adding another thing that I personally love to this, and that's sports. Sports has been a big influence on my life as much as technology and all of that. So we're gonna really dive into this one and talk about how sports and technology are going hand to hand, especially in days today. And let's dive right into it. And we're back. So first, before we tie and get into how technology and the sports are going into each other, I just want to go more into like what I said in the intro of everything about how sports is also very big for me too. So besides like me growing up and wanting to be an engineer and all of that, I've also played sports my whole life, damn near. And I also watch a lot of sports, especially when it comes to football, more recently into soccer, basketball, and things like that. But mainly it's the football, sport of football. And, I, I got to be able to live in both of the worlds of technology in that sports era. So I kind of can see how they can be put together. And it's kind of cool because now I want to kind of talk about some stuff that I've seen recently, and I actually find them really dope and stuff. So one of the we can start with football, I guess. So recently, now that spring football is out and everything, there's now this league called the XFL. It's basically a spring football league when the NFL is not in season no more, and everything is and they have their own rules and things like that. It's basically like kind of like a G League for the NBA, but that was coming on. And recently, I seen a clip of the review process. So I believe in the XFL, when a review on a penalty or something is called, they actually showed the refs talking out the penalty and everything like that, how they're coming to the conclusion, what they're looking at, how they're viewing it, and stuff like that. And a lot of people are actually happy with this because even recently, like in the Super Bowl for football, there are a lot of calls that are being missed, and there's a lot of calls that are made and they're very questionable, and they have time that there's time that has to be reviewed for. And as an audience, we are not included in any of that, like how the decision process is made and nothing like that. So what happens is a lot of times when a person is watching sports, they'll go out and see these calls and they'll think they're crazy, or they'll be upset about it or be like, we lost because of this call, that doesn't make sense, and things like that. But we're not included in that process and stuff. So, and a lot of time with even with reviews and things taking so long, without technology that we have today, we wouldn't even be able to review calls. Now we're getting so much better calls than probably what it used to be back then in the day. I wasn't watching football when they didn't have review and stuff, but I believe like we're getting a lot less more fair of a game with the technology being included in the review process and all of that as well too. So just to start with, because imagine if something did happen and you couldn't review it properly, and now the game's messed up even more because something wasn't seen clearly at the time and you can't check it, so you couldn't even challenge it. And a lot of sports, there's coaches that can challenge a play and things like that if a call is not made appropriately. And how are you going to go back and make a review without that kind of technology? You really can't at all. So it's actually very nice to have that kind of system in place right now, but it can also be better, especially on viewers. If you want to think about, the one thing I hear a lot is the league is cheating and it's all rigged and things like that. But if you allow your games and allow the viewers and people who are experiencing the game to be included in that review process, you can see how the refs came to the conclusion. And I really think this is what a lot of people want to be part of coming to the conclusion and knowing what it's about and knowing what they're talking about, because then you can really know if something's really messed up and if you don't agree fully 100%, or you can fully agree because you see how they're doing everything, see how they're pointing certain stuff out, you see how they're talking about the rules, you're being fully included in these processes, so you can't question what's going on because you're fully there with them and things. And I thought just the XFL doing that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe them doing that is huge. And if all sports did that, it would be so much more huge, especially if they have the time. Because in football, the reviews normally take a good amount of time, so you can really sit there and watch the review or whatever. But normally they just throw in a commercial break or whatever, and you come back to the bad news and all of that. That's not all what if great and what's not, but being included, I believe, will definitely help the viewers way more. Doing that, adding the technology for reviewing and all of that, making the reviewing process better and upgrading the technology that comes around it would make the game so much more fair and better. And it would make it so much more better for the viewers to understand the game that's going on, and for probably for less people to be mad also too. Like that it's just seeing that just makes it so much better and stuff like that. And that kind of leads into my next point being I recently got into watching the World Cup more. It's like one of the biggest stages in the world and things like that. But one thing that I noticed during the World Cup was they're all sides, uh, cameras and stuff like that. When they view if people are off sides, that was one of the dopest things I've ever seen. And so And that's another thing about transparency when it comes to the viewers and making sure that the information that's coming back to us about the game is 100% better. It just makes everything better. There's way less controversy and stuff like that. Basically, they would bring up this kind of 3D platform of simulation of the game of what happened, and they'll pause it and they'll have the technology line up where the player is at and compare it to the other player in soccer to see and check and see if the player was offsides or not, to make sure that those calls are right and stuff, because offsides is a big deal in soccer and stuff. And if the offsides isn't being calculated right or being checked right, you'll be like, "Wow, my team could have scored," and all this other extra stuff and things like that. So I really believe it. Just this whole, there can be so much stuff done better with a viewer's perspective and knowing what's going on and why certain calls are made and etc. Just like that, like the whole sports game can become elevated even more, and you'll have way less controversy before the teams, unless these leagues want there to be more controversy. Who knows? Like to keep people interested and stuff. But in my opinion, like as a viewer, seeing stuff like that makes me believe that the game is more fair. And makes me, especially if my team lost because of these certain calls and stuff, I I can feel way better because I know that's actually what happened. That's the truth of what happened and stuff like that. Like having the whole review processes and the videos going out and taking the time and actually explaining what's going on to users and that, so great. It actually is really great. Like let me know if like you guys really agree with that, how you guys may feel about that, but I really believe reviews would be able to change the game like if we're more included in it. Uh, I think a lot of sports teams and leagues should look into it more, especially the NFL and NBA maybe for certain stuff, and a whole bunch of other, like even like as I said, I only watch the World Cup, so I don't know if they like doing it in Premier Leagues and stuff, but I assume they do. But they have the cameras all set up and everything in all these sports, so imagine if there wasn't any review. Like I can't. I mean, I guess I could kind of imagine, but me personally, since I never like experienced the world without being able to just watch the games on TV and see clips of the games constantly, I can't really think of how stuff would have been if you wouldn't be able to play something back and check it for yourself, or seeing the replays showed to you. And even better if it was explained properly and going based on that, and the technology was better for that to be the case. So those two parts about the whole review thing is great. The next thing that I want to go into is basically how it how sports evolves with the whole training and skill training and stuff like that. I've seen a multiple different kind of devices to help athletes improve their games. One of the first things that I seen was when I took a trip to California at a basketball like training facility. They have it where you can work on your shot and your dribbling and stuff like that. And I honestly believe these kinds of platforms that are being offered to athletes can help them up their game and probably make the athletes better than the ones back in the day, especially with all the virtual stuff. Like you can literally shoot there for a certain number of shots, and there's a camera or a sensor that tracks the arc of your shot and the rotation and things like that, and tries to tell you how to shoot it, how to kind of get it in there so you can get a feel for it, and what arc to shoot the ball at, and things like that. And just throwing the ball back at you and just tracking all that information, how what your shot mainly lines up to be, and all the data based around that. Or if you're even working on your dribbling and you have to like touch a screen or somewhere and use the ball to follow a certain thing. It's just there's so many things out there like that that are really cool. And also one thing that I also noticed is the last NFL season that just passed, the Packers had this machine that could copy the trajectory of other quarterback passes and throws, and basically throw the ball or launch the ball the same way that that certain quarterback can throw. So, what can this do? You take this data on this player and stuff, and how and all this information on them, and you just upload it. So you can do two things with this. One, your receivers can get used to a quarterback even if their quarterback's not available, or other quarterbacks and stuff like that to up their game. You have something that helps you practice all the time. It moves on its own, it turns on its own, it elevates and gets the angles right on its own with the data and stuff. Like it's automated. Like you really don't it takes another body out of your training aspect where you need one less person to help you train and things like that. Like you can work on your deep ball catches, you can work on so many different things offensively and just going above and beyond from that. Another thing that you can work on is defense. So, say I have a game coming up playing Patrick Mahomes. Now, it's going to be kind of hard in a sense. Patrick Mahomes does a lot of like crazy passes, especially throwing sideways. It's not always with a arc, maybe, and stuff. But now I'm a defender and I want to work on targeting where the ball is going to be when Patrick Mahomes throws certain passes and stuff like that. How are they thrown? And you want to get used to cutting down onto the route. You want to get used to where the ball is going to most likely end up, how far he can throw, and get all this information and practice based on it, like you're playing a whole game against him before you play a whole game against him. Imagine that. Yeah, doesn't sound too fair now, does it? Being able to play your opponent without playing them yet is practically a blessing, because you can get work on all these kinks and stuff. No, it might not be exactly how your practice and stuff, but you got used to a certain rhythm of how they normally do stuff, and you go in and outs about that. So that, in my opinion, is a cheat code. And I think technology and how athletes train and how the sports are going to constantly evolve. One, remember the first thing, if they evolve their reviewing and replay systems and stuff like that and find a way to make it better for the players, whether they need to use AI or whatever, that's a plus. Another thing, any system or technology that can advance a player, especially if people who don't have extra support systems around them and stuff, and they can use like a certain facility to help them train and all of that kind of stuff, is a plus. You're gonna be able to breed more better athletes, bring better athletes to the game, or it's just way more convenient as well too. You don't have to wait on anybody else's time. You can work on these things, certain things yourself, kind of, and it's going to be able to develop a lot of different uh, play styles and skill for certain people and develop their skills to be better. And then on the review axis, is going to be able to develop the game in a more fair, constant review kind of way. Like consistency is going to be key, especially if these reviews and the replays and all of that is going to be get done consistently. So that's basically the gist of everything that I wanted to spit out and let you guys know about. I've been thinking a while about it for a minute now, and I just kind of wanted to get that all out of my head. All of this new technology is constantly going to evolve, and I'm wondering where stuff will be. I wonder what the next thing is going to be that really gets announced for growth in the sports world and things like that. And when it does, trust and believe I will probably review about it and talk about it and stuff like that. So it doesn't hurt to try and look for that. So like I'm just very curious and all of that. But once again, everybody, thanks for stopping in with Dev Talks. I hope you guys appreciate everything. Like, comment, let me know how you feel about that. Let me know how you feel about if the replays and stuff get better, how you feel about the advancement in technologies for developing your skills and stuff like that. Let me know all that kind of details. Let me know, like, subscribe. Appreciate you stopping in. And also, don't forget to share. Thanks and peace out.